Tell us what we're expecting from the meeting between Pence and Shinzo Abe. It seems like pretty tense times.
Yes, on the record, we're expecting business as usual heading into these big regional summits. It's nothing unusual for US and Japan leaders to meet ahead of summits like APEC and ASEAN to confirm their talking points, but it is unusual that President Trump won't be there. So we expect Abe and Pence today to run through their points on North Korea, security in the South China Sea, things like that. We may not see anything from them publicly today on trade. Of course, our sources say that the White House is circulating a draft report by the Commerce Department, and President Trump could discuss the contents of this report tonight, later today, Japan time, about possibly imposing automobile import tariffs, and that would have a huge impact on Japan.
Well, also, Sophie, I mean, let's not forget that they are probably trying to be united on a China front as well, and they've got to walk a tightrope on that one, haven't they?
They do. Their stance on China perhaps a little more divergent than it has been in the past. Mike Pence himself delivering that rather strident speech on China the other day, whereas Prime Minister Abe, in fact, after several years of frosty relations with China, is trying to get them back on track. Japan-China relations being advanced now by that common challenge that they face, which is trade pressure from the Trump administration. So it's a bit complicated. Their security stance on China remains unchanged. Their concern about South China Sea, etc., remains unchanged. So we do expect to see a commitment to that in a joint statement Abe and Pence are supposed to put out today. But as for trade, Japan is finding itself in a weird position, having more in common with China than it does with its closest ally.
Right, and we've been talking about these draft reports that are circling around the White House as well, reportedly talking about tariffs on auto imports. You know, how serious do you think President Trump is this time around? Did the outcome of the midterm elections change that, how he thinks in any way?
It's hard to say about the midterm elections. It really depends who in the Trump administration you ask about these tariffs as to getting a feel of how serious they are about it. The tariffs are being considered on the basis of national security, and that was the same rationale behind those steel and aluminium tariffs earlier this year, which did go through with Japan not getting an exemption. The Commerce Department has until February to advise the president of their findings, and then he has to make the final decision. But certainly for Japan, that would be a big blow. In terms of something like retaliatory action, Abe and his administration have gone to great pains to criticize the sort of tit-for-tat tariff action going on between the US and China. So it's hard to see really what Abe might do in response if indeed Japan fails to get an exemption to those tariffs. So really, I think now the Japanese administration, including in today's meeting, are just trying their best to convince the Trump administration to keep them out of those tariffs. And even if Mike Pence doesn't mention them today, it may not be too long before the president says something else on those tariffs, and that could be concerning for the Abe administration.